Assalamu alaikum and good morning to one and all. I'd like to welcome everyone today to a presentation here at the Minara Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank everybody to that made time and spend a very fulfilling and get enriched in your life. Today I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Nouri Siddiqui. She's a TV and radio presenter. She's an emotional stress expert. She is a health practitioner. She traveled 30 countries. She is to the director of a health company Optimum Wellness. And today's presentation is managing emotional stress. I would just like to leave you with this quote. Don't stress the could haves. If it should have, it would have. I now hand you over to Nouri. I had the privilege of once being in her company of her presentation, and she is totally inspiring, and she is going to give you all beautifuls today, and enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Namaste. Welcome everybody. My name is Nouri. And some of you may have heard me on Radio Al-Ansar. I'm usually on every second Monday at the moment, on Monday evening, talking about reflections to ponder, to think, and to reason, which is very closely related to emotional stress. So before we start getting stressed today, shall we make sure that all our phones are on silent? Would that be okay? And that's a wonderful way to be present. So one of the things that we need to learn about emotional stress is whether or not we are present. So where are you right now in this moment? Are you thinking about what you need to do when you leave here? The chaos you might have left behind you to get here? How many things you have to organize to make it happen? Maybe you have to fight with somebody to make sure that you pay. What did you go through to get here, and are you now present? So let's all just take a deep breath. And out. Let's do that 4 times. In. And out. In. And out. In. Last time, 50 and out. I learned something very beautiful about making video, and it's all about actually using the breath. And when we breathe in, we are oxygenating, and when we oxygenate the body, we oxygenate the brain, is very important. And then as we breathe out, if we then we actually are opening up the diaphragm when we breathe in, and as we breathe out, we eliminate toxins from the lymph in the diaphragm, so we're breathing out toxins as we breathe out. So if you are making dhikr and you're saying La ilaha, so remember the ha is this, it's La ilaha illallah, and that ha at the end is also breathing out toxins. So if you're repetitively doing that, remember the breath and remember the ha, so that you're actually breathing out that toxicity. And you'll see how you energize yourself and your mind wakes up and you're more present and you're more focused, because you're breathing in oxygen, eliminating the carbon dioxide, but also eliminating the toxins from the room. So how many of you here don't suffer from stress? Don't suffer from stress. How many of you here give stress to other people? There's always one. I try. How many of you have mild forms of stress? Oh, so does that mean you're all really stressed? Oh, you are? Right, okay then. So we've got a starting point. So there's nobody here that needs to leave, because you're either causing or affecting stress in your life. Is that correct? So are you the cause or are you the effect? That is what you want to ask yourself. And if you're causing it, what are you affecting? Because you will have consequences for the stress that you give yourself. So managing your emotional stress is really about what we did a few moments ago. It's about being present. It's about acknowledging what is. It's about loving what is in the now, even if you don't like it, even if it's not what you want. Did you hear what I said? You've got to acknowledge what is in the now, even if you don't like it, even if it's not what you want, even if it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. But you are somehow able to say, I acknowledge and I accept what is here and now, and I choose to be in gratitude for what is, in the knowingness that my affairs are being taken care of. Because what you do is you're releasing control. Because when things are wrong, you want to control them. You must fix it. How many people here love fixing things? How do you like fixing other people? There's always something wrong with that one. I can fix them. Right? Maybe you're married to them. So why is it that we fall in love and get married, we say, oh, but she's perfect, and then we want to change them after we got the ring. Right? So it's interesting how our behaviors change all the time because we live in constant expectation. Do you know that if you live in constant expectation, you will always be stressed negatively? Because I'm going to talk about two aspects of stress here. You have negative stress and you have positive stress. Did you know there was positive stress? You did. Only one. Right, so the rest of you are in negative stress. We've got some serious work to do here. So what we're looking at here is our constant reaction to things. So when you're expecting something, let's say, for example, you wake up in the morning and you're expecting breakfast in bed. Number two, the person you're expecting it from doesn't even know how to make breakfast. But the bottom line is that it's a false expectation. But yet, that person that you are targeting, that you have the expectation of, you have set them up to disappoint you when they didn't do anything. So how many people in your life do you set up to disappoint you, but they haven't done anything? They don't even know what you're thinking. They don't know how you're feeling. They didn't know you had an expectation. So when we get into relationships, whether it's colleagues, whether it's family, mother, father, child, parent, husband, wife, we have expectations all the time. So ask yourself, what expectations do you have in your life of the people nearest to you for which you are harming them and you are harming yourself? Because this is self-harming. So what emotional stress means is that you make a conscious decision all of the time. Did you know you have over 70,000 thoughts a day? Did you know you were that busy? And what are most of those thoughts? Do you know where they are? Can you find them? I can tell you where they are. They're 70% in the past. The other 29% might be worrying about the future, and the 1% might be here. So if you're in the fear of the past and the worry of the future, when do you actually get to enjoy yourself? So this is how we are causing stress. So stress doesn't come up and say, hey, I'm going to give you stress. It's you saying, I think I'm going to choose a stressful reaction, and then I'll blame stress because I got sick. How's that for a blame game? You make yourself sick, and then you blame your stress for making you sick. And then you blame the other people around you that they're stressing you made you sick. Who's responsible for your well-being? Oh, that's not what you told somebody yesterday. Yeah. So if you're responsible for your well-being, it means that you are responsible. So what does responsible mean? It means you have to have the ability to respond. Do you have the ability to respond? Or do you have the ability to react? Otherwise, you'll be in reactability. But if you're in reactability, you'll be in disability. Does that make sense? So what does react mean? React means that you're reenacting a previous behavior that didn't serve you. So let's say, for example, somebody says to you, oh, but you put on weight. Now you've got so many issues about your weight, right? And it goes right back to when your mother insulted you when you were 13 years old, right? And now somebody's telling you at 43 and ding, the trigger comes up. So that's a reaction. You are reenacting an action that happened before, for which you have an emotional memory. So how many of you have emotional triggers? Everybody, right? How do you know when you've got an emotional trigger? Because you have an emotional reaction. So your emotional trigger is, oh, Andy, welcome. There's 2 seats here, 4 seats. Right, so when you have an emotional reaction, then it means that you are reenacting. So what does that mean? You've just got to be aware of the trigger that went off. Just imagine now you had an AK-47 in your hand, and somebody says you're fat. Is that correct? You've just done that, haven't you? You've either done it to yourself, you've done it to the person who said it. Because you'll go, oh, but I'm fat, oh, but I've put on weight, oh, but I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm only, and then I've got menopause, and then this happened, and that happened. Right? So there's all those stories that are going on in your head because somebody said that you're fat. So what if you said, but actually it's okay if I'm fat? So what if I'm fat? As long as I'm healthy, let me just do more to be healthy, and then maybe that will take care of itself. But in the meantime, me being upset about it will probably make me go and eat a cook sister or something. So the other reaction is, where's my comfort food? Right? Now another kilo later, oh, I'm still fat. So it's interesting how delicate we are. So what is that delicacy? It's actually our self-esteem. But you know where our self-esteem is supposed to be? It's supposed to be with our Creator. Because self is the self, and esteem is the connection between the self and your Creator. It's not because your husband thinks you're fat. That's not your self-esteem. Right? That might be a level of confidence, but even your self-confidence, even your self-worth, even your self-identity, it's nothing to do with other people and things. It's only your connection with your Creator. So when you are comfortable with yourself, you are at peace with your Creator, and therefore you will be at peace with yourself. So this whole idea of self that we talk about is the lower self. And the lower self is the ego, E-G-O. Guess what ego means? Edge God out. So whenever you're in ego, oh, but I've got a fancy car, oh, but I've got a nice house, oh, but I've got a good job, oh, but I've got a beautiful wife. So you're in your ego. Now you are flattering yourself. Now you're in big trouble because you become arrogant. You become insensitive to another person's needs. Right? So that's why we have to, like, and the Quran, it tells us, before you die, yourself must die. So which self is it talking about? The lower self, the one that is the ego. Before you die, yourself must die. So what we're doing is we're getting rid of the I. Oh, I this, I that, I the other. No, we're not I. We're just ourselves with our Creator. If I, with all a string of degrees and a big house and 10 million rand in the bank, there's no I. The I is with your Creator. So the moment you bring the I in, I am, I've got, I had, I did, I've achieved, from a lower self, then you're going to find yourself detached from peace. You'll be detached from peace. You'll never find peace if you're like that. So that's why we're told before you die, yourself must die. So all that ego is just free. And what does that mean? You go into humbleness. You go into humility. And when you get there, then you're not in denial. How many of you here live in denial? Do you even know that you're in denial? It's interesting, isn't it? How many of you must have the last word in a fight? You've got to have the last word, right? And you had a disagreement with somebody. Now for 3 days you're rehearsing how you're going to get there. So you are in denial of being self-righteous for the wrong reason, because you've got to be right. How many here have got to be right? It's okay to be angry, it's okay to be revengeful, it's okay to be jealous. You're harming yourself. So with all these emotions, are you self-harming or self-healing? And remember I told you about the self, your connection with your creator. Are you self-harming or self-healing? Wow. That's really something to think about. Because you become disconnected. So like this thing won't work here if it's not plugged in. So when you go into self-harming, you unplug, like load shedding. Right? So you do a load shedding on yourself. You just go into the black. You're not in the light anymore, you're in the dark. So different aspects of emotional stress are so important because it's how we conduct ourselves every day. Can you start sweating? We're told that stress is the number one cause of death. Did you know that? It's called the number one, but I'm going to show you something else today that actually disputes that. Right? I'm actually going to show you how stress is your friend. Would you like to know?
Actually, stress makes me want to examine what I want to do. Because when I'm stressed, I say I have to do this, and it motivates me to do what I want to do.
That's the positive stress I was talking about, but I'm still talking about stress being your friend. Yes? Because you'll do that for a part of it, but then the other 90% of your life isn't okay. Because if you're not stressing, you're stressing somebody else. You're still, right? You'll get consequences to that. So 43%, there's an increase when people believe that stress is harmful. The statistics of people dying of stress are 43%, just because they think. Not because stress is harmful, it's because you believe stress is harmful, right? So if you have diabetes and you get stressed and you believe that stress is harmful for you, watch your sugar go up, watch your blood pressure go up. But if your attitude towards stress is different, so that stress is your friend, your blood sugar and your blood pressure should stay the same. And where you might die at 50, you might still live to 90, just because of a simple change in attitude. So in America, they studied over 8 years, 182,000 people who died that had previously stated that they believed that stress was harmful. So that was 20,000 people a year from those that took part in the study. When they did a comparative test to see of those people that did not believe that stress was harmful, and it was zero, stress did not cause their death or contribute to their death. Right? So that's just because their attitude to stress was different. So we're going to go into that. Next slide, Daniel. So when you change your mind about stress, I've got a saying that I often use on the radio. It's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Right? Mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. So how do you change your mind about stress? You change your body's stress response. So it's a whole attitude to what's happening around you. And so let's say, for example, that I call any one of you up here now, and I say, right, you take over my talk, there's the slideshow, and you can just go through the points and give a presentation. Is there anybody here that put their hand up and do it? If one of you go, is that correct? First thing what happens, heart starts pounding, right? Where's the young lady that did my introduction? Because she had that experience. Heart started pounding, didn't she? Right? Because she didn't impromptu introduction for me. Then you start breathing faster. Right? I'm stressed. And then of course you may also start sweating. So that's a normal stress response. So it's just for you to be aware. Some of you might even stop breathing. So now you're stressed out, suddenly you go, you just catch yourself doing that, right? But these are some of the typical responses. Next slide. So when you change your response to helpful, so your attitude to your stress is, how is this experience helpful? And how is my response to stress helping me? Well, when you change your attitude to the response of this experience being helpful, your body suddenly becomes re-energized and is prepared to meet a challenge. Much like the lady was talking about. What's your name, dear?
Nadia.
Nadia, right. So Nadia says she likes that. Why? Because she gets her adrenaline going, right? So when you get your adrenaline going and your cortisol is up, you're in your fight and flight. And then that can work positively and negatively, because some people go 724, like you've got a brand new Ferrari, but you keep the accelerator down, eventually you're going to burn the engine out, right? So when you're doing it in a negative way, that stress, stress, right? Then that's when you're burning the engine out. But if you're saying, no, I've got a challenge now, this is great. How can I best manage this? How can I manage my emotional state in this circumstance that I find myself in? I remember once I was in a car accident and I was trapped in the car. And before I knew it, I was in England at the time, and before I knew it, there were 10 firefighters. And then I got wheeled off to the hospital, only to have some South African doctor looking after me. It's only getting better. But ordinarily, what would your experience be being I would have gone into trauma? Then I would have had post-traumatic stress. Can you see where we go with all of that? So it's really quite remarkable how our attitude in any given situation can actually determine what the body experiences. So the heart pounding is right, let's prepare for action. What are we going to do now? Breathe faster, getting more oxygen to the brain. And sweating is for performance, right? Because what does it do? You're waking everything up. It's getting the lymph moving. You know your lymph doesn't move if you don't, right? Your lymph fluid carries your nutrients to the cells. It carries the toxins to be eliminated. It carries the immune system for the body to be defended constantly. But unlike the blood, it has the heart to pump it, but the lymph fluid doesn't. So when you don't move your body is becoming like a stagnant pool, and there's no movement. So we need to have movement. So this is actually getting prepared for movement, right? Because you're alive. And you've got something to do, somewhere to go, something to be challenged with. You're less stressed, less anxious, more confident. How does that feel? Oh, my stress is helpful. I can be more energized and prepared to meet a challenge. Because if you're just going to be like everybody else and stressed and burnt out, don't you think that's boring? Why don't you want to be different, isn't it? Don't you want to get different results in your life? Please, you don't want to be like that. So if you start doing something different, look at the divorce rate. Look at the amount of stress that the children are experiencing. So we need to teach our children how to manage the stress better, because it's all their attitude. I remember when my girl was at Alphala School, she was being bullied. So, and she wanted to leave the school, and she was crying every day. And I said, my darling, your attitude's just all wrong. So she said, I said, how are they bullying you? She said, no, they just keep calling me names and not in gangs, and they don't want to be a part of any friendship group, this, that. So I said, well, there's only one word that you need to remember, and then I'll give you another 2 as a bonus. So when somebody comes up and calls you a name, you just go, so? So? And then if they come and do it again, you go, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. You're not bothering me. I'm not bothered. Go away. They stopped bullying her. She went on to be the head girl. And the most popular. And in the speech competitions. Just because she changed attitudes, her stress helped her. But she didn't let them stress her. Just said, so, I'm not bothered.
I would have thought the other 2 words would be something else, but anyway.
They wouldn't have been helpful.
Oh, well, I would have thought better. But what about them? I don't care.
What we want is consequences, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're driving in the car swearing at the taxi driver, you're livid, you're having all this negative stress, and he's got the more music on loud and he's having a lovely time. So we're playing out insanity, isn't it? Because we're harming ourselves and we think we're harming someone else. And if we're playing out that we want to harm somebody else, we harm ourselves even more. So we can't win. We've just stress. You constrict your blood vessels, and therefore that's right. So you'll actually see if I had heart disease, right? So you'll actually see if I had the video playing now, that the blood vessels themselves would, the rim of it would swell up. So where you would have a circle like this, you'd end up with that. So you're constricting the blood vessel. So your oxygen, your blood flow, and everything is being restricted. And when stress response is viewed positively, the blood vessels are not constricted. They stay exactly the same. Because there's only a positive effect on the heart. There's not a negative one. So if the the blood is pumping more, then it's able to healthily because you haven't got the negative effect of stress reacting in the body. So the heart still pounds, the blood vessels stay relaxed. Isn't that amazing? You can be stressed and your blood vessels stay relaxed. Could you imagine that that was possible? Because it's all measured as joy. What is stress giving you courage? Instead of carrying you. So, University. Next one. So, response to body stress reaction. This body is helping me to rise to the challenge. So, it's like you have a self-talk going on. This body is, the first thing you want to do is breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. When you're stressed, change your state. Just breathe and see how that changes your state already. And how you think about stress matters. So acknowledge how are you thinking about stress in that moment. Next one. Oh, this is a real breakthrough in stress management. It's the most remarkable research. Anybody any idea what oxytocin is? Oxytocin is a hormone that is a neurohormone, right? And it's commonly known as the cuddle or the hug hormone. So when you cuddle or hug somebody that you love, your family, your friends, that it releases oxytocin, right? So you can call it your happy hormone as well. But it does much more than that. It fine-tunes the brain to social instinct. So when you are stressed, the oxytocin, the neurohormone, can actually help you to follow your instinct for social connection. So if you're stressed and your life is unmanageable, you say, no, but I need support. Is that right? Maybe you talk to your mother, maybe you talk to your partner, maybe you start to go to therapy, maybe you join a women's group, but you'll find a way of getting support. Maybe going to the masjid, identifying with people there that you know, just giving salam to somebody, have someone greet you. That is all a part of support. So very, very important. So it makes you crave physical contact with friends and family, and it enhances empathy, and you are more willing to help and support. Now, do you know that the more often you release oxytocin, the healthier you will be and the longer you will live. So they found that if they looked at people in their retirement that were still stressing and worrying and fussing and not contributing, that they didn't last very long or they just became very chronically ill. But the healthier up to 90-year-olds were those that were contributing, that would feel needed, that were helping other people in different ways, supporting, loving, caring, and they were filling their pots up. So it means that the conversation actually comes back to love, doesn't it? Where you're either giving love or you're receiving love. Let's go to the next one. So oxytocin is a stress hormone, and the pituitary gland pumps it out as a stress response. So it's a reaction that the body has instantly. And it motivates you to seek support. Your biological stress response then makes you share, so you feel the need to tell somebody that you have a problem. It's very, very important because they can say nothing, but they're just listening. Or they can provide advice, or they can just hug you. Or they could say, embrace you as a brother and say, don't worry, brother, we're here for you. Right? That makes all the difference. And to be surrounded by people that care about. And when other people are stressing, you're empathic and supportive of them. So this oxytocin stress hormone is doing all of that. Who would have thought that a stress hormone would do that? You'd think it'd be creating havoc and giving you a heart attack, wouldn't you? So let's go to the next one now. So the mind, body, and the stress hormone, something else oxytocin does is it protects the heart. Now, who would have thought that too? So on the heart, they've now discovered there's receptor cells that receive the oxytocin, and then it actually goes into to the heart to start repairing it and rejuvenating it where the heart requires it. And the oxytocin hormone actually does that. So you can enact in your body's own reparation system and stimulate the body repairing itself, relaxing the blood vessels, and even as an anti-inflammatory. You've got your own anti-inflammatory then. Instead of popping another pill because you're stressed, you can say, no, let me say, how's my stress serving me? How is it helping me? And then cause the right biological reactions in the body. Next one, Sandra. So when you enhance your the oxytocin enhances your social contact, which means that generally speaking, your body is recovering faster. So we usually say stress is the number one cause of sickness. In this case, your stress could be your number one reason for being well. Well, how's that for a turnaround? Because the oxytocin is being released to protect your body. So it's got a built-in stress resilience. In other words, it makes you resilient and strong to face courage, to deal with, to face stress and deal with stress, and not take it negatively into the body. And this is done through human connection. So if you think you have to do it all alone, if you think you are alone, then that is when you're going to have your negative stress as well. So it's allowing yourself to be supported. Prayer is also support, allowing yourself to be supported. That I allow my Creator to take care of my affairs, and therefore I release my fear. Why is you say I'm here to take care of you, now why do you think you have to do it all by yourself? That's where you stress yourself out. Because you think you are in control, you cause the problem, you must fix it. No. You can take responsibility, but you're not there to fix. Because you say, you're asking your Creator that you handed you or your, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say that it is only now that I understand why when one is feeling down or they're angry and they just seem to say, I need a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what happens to
The
me
natural
inside.
There you are. Yes. And you know, in the West, so many people live alone. And you see in this country as well, a lot of old people live on their own. Widowed male and female. What do? They keep a pet. So they've always got something to hug. And much research has been done on how these people live longer and healthier because they have a pet.
Yes, I saw those guys in Australia, the ones that are keeping the kangaroos.
Yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Exactly. Next one. Create biology of courage. There we are. So you're changing your whole physical being to that of which stress enables me to experience courage, enables me to experience joy, because you can be in acceptance. Remember at the beginning I talked about acceptance, I talked about gratitude, and allowing to be what is as it is in this moment, even though you don't like it, even though it's not what you want. That's a really tall order for what you normally do, isn't it? How many of you here, with it, whichever circumstance you're in, can say to yourself, I accept my situation as it is. I accept my situation as it is. Ask yourself if you can do that. You might have a child who's a drug addict. You might just have gone through a divorce. Maybe you just lost a parent. I accept my situation as it is, while it is, even though I don't like it, even though it's not what I want. But I choose to be in acceptance, and I choose to be in gratitude that there is a greater purpose for me. And therefore I hand it over to the care of my Creator. It mustn't be my problem. You know, I was speaking to somebody recently and I said, how do you manage your stress? He says, well, I don't have any problems. I said, why don't you have any problems? He said, because my problems are God's problem, not my problem. So why must I be stressed? And that was coming from the literate person. But they just knew my problems are God's problems, they're not my problem. Why do I'm flattering myself if I have a problem because I want to control it. And you know, if you control it, you go into resistance. And what you resist is going to persist. So you'll get more of what you don't want. Now you're trying to fix it, and the problem gets bigger. Like try telling a drug addict not to take drugs. Anybody ever done that? Try telling a drug addict not to take drugs. What you resist will persist. They'll go out and buy some more, isn't it? So allow yourself to be where you are as you are, even though you don't like it, even though it's not what you want. But release control of it. Allow yourself to hand it over. Imagine now you've got a newborn baby in your hands, and you're handing it over and you say, you take care. But what you've got in your hands is all the problems. And you're saying, you take care. My problem is your problem. You know, if you think about how your body works, all of you are sitting here. If you had breakfast, you're digesting breakfast. If you didn't have breakfast, then your body's probably doing other things like preparing to eliminate. It's keeping your heart beating. It's keeping your blood pumping. Your mind is very, very active. You have saliva in your mouth. You have tear ducts that are ready to go at any time. If I say something emotive, you could even burst into tears. But it would be autonomous. Can you see? So you're actually running on autopilot. There's an innate intelligence that's going on in here, which is divinely created. But we stand and go around in life and go, but I'm really intelligent. I've got the answers. I can fix it. The intelligence is in here that's divinely operating in autopilot with billions. Do you know that 100,000 proteins are synthesized in every cell in every cell? Right? If you put the human cell under a microscope and you just watch it, you're just sleeps. When I study nothing, can you do anything to make a broken bone? But then why do you doubt that you can't heal? If I cut myself and I'm bleeding here, then I'll watch the blood stop, then I'll watch the scan form, and a few days later I'll go, oh, did I cut myself? Did you do anything? Your body was just busy healing. The paramedics, the ambulance, the antibiotics, everything came out, all there for you. You were just going, oh, I cut myself. You might have washed it, that was about it. Maybe put a plaster. Fascinating. So think of how many things are happening in you all of the time. So what happened in my experience was that I just turned 60 now. And when I was 55, I was running a wellness centre in Cape Town. I looked after over 10,000 people. And I suddenly started to get arthritis. And I would wake up in the morning and my hands were locked. And then I'm having to do this. Then when I'm sleeping at night, I have to use my elbows to turn because I can't actually turn. And then I want to lift the duvet and my arm is so sore, I can't lift the duvet. And I want him to take my arm off and put it on the side of the bed because it's so painful. And sleeping wasn't really much of an option. Going to bed in pain, waking up pain, spending the whole 7/24, like, what happened to me? And my mother ended up in a wheelchair, and she was a strong, strong woman. Like, till she was 55 and 60, we used to walk up Table Mountain together, because I lived in Cape Town that time. And I was terrified. I thought I ended up in a wheelchair. I could hardly get on and off the chair. In and out of the car was embarrassing. And just 7/24 in pain. And I said, and I had to hand it over. I said, I don't know the answer. Here I am. I'm a health practitioner. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know the answer. And if you did the x-rays on me, you wouldn't have seen any arthritis. Because I went on to research and I found it quite by coincidence that I had menopausal arthritis. which means that you can be deficient in collagen, but it shows up with all the symptoms of arthritis. So I went on to research hydrolyzed collagen, and having a health practice and health products myself, I then decided to go on and create a product which is called Miracle Collagen, which is what's here. And in 2 weeks, my pain was gone, and in 4 weeks, I was back at the gym. And now one of my goals is to go halfway up home. So I'm training. And I cycle on the beach at 6 in the morning, and I do lots of things because I live in there. But I could only get up the chair. So what I'm sharing with you then is that I said to myself that my stress has got to help me. My stress must help me find a solution. My stress must help me get better. And then when I found the solution, I said, right, now all of that stress, I'm now going to use as a contribution. Because I discovered that 6.2 million people in South Africa live in pain every day, and they take painkillers. Did you know that? And that 40% are suffering from immobility. They can't get on and off the chair properly. They can't make such. Did you notice in the masjid there's more and more chairs? The mosque will be half full of chairs soon the way it's going, because people can't even get up and down from the floor. But they're 40 and 50. So this then was the most remarkable thing, because out of all of that stress and using that stress in a positive way, then I press the F button, boost post, and then how to put a picture up, and then put a little writing on the top, and then I did that. And in my first month, I just put my credit card in there, so I'll see what happens. And then the phone wouldn't stop ringing, and it just went crazy. So I never got time to look at my credit card, and I'd spent 35,000 rand in Facebook, but I'd done 200,000 rand in 4 weeks. And that's how I turned my stress around. So now this is in pharmacies, it's even in Amazon bookshop, and I'm working in partnership with Luxana as well. I'm having an amazing experience of going in highly acclaimed chiropractors, doctors, men's clinics, because it's even linked to now prostate gland, and it helps to strengthen the bladder and the organs and the heart, and with any kind of dysfunction with the organs. So all of this was because I created a biology of courage within me. And so once I could get well, I was then able to contribute. And this brings us to the next point, because it gives us access to our hearts. If we're stressed, we disconnect from our hearts. Can you be compassionate, empathic, and kind when you're stressed? No. You're irritable and angry. How many of you are empathic and kind when you're stressed? You can't, can you? So what if you had the biology of courage, that whilst you're stressed, you could still be compassionate and kind, not only to others, but to yourself? Well, how is that for a thought? Do you think you could manage that? Because you just remember to breathe, and you ask yourself, how can I manage this state that I'm in right now, to access my heart, to have compassion for myself and others? Can you have compassion for anybody if you don't have yourself? So what does that mean? Is you're going to end up with strength and energy. What happens if you do stress the other way? Stress makes you more tired than anything, doesn't it? Right? So if you've got the biology of courage, and you're working from a heart center with compassion and empathy for yourself and for others, then just breathe and manage your stress. And look at all the ways in which your life could be different. Freely break yourself for expectations, letting go of the past. Where is the past? Can you read it here? So it's 13. And this happened and that happened, and would you like to know he's a vegetable as a result of the side effects of that medication. And there's nothing she can do about it. She can only look after you. Now, some people might say put him in a home, have a nurse to look after you. You can sleep in another room, let somebody else take care of it. She says, that man gave me a life of life. She said, anything I have to do for him is an honor. I adore him, I'm devoted to him, nothing is too much. That's an attitude towards your strength. Pure love, isn't it? Unconditional love no matter what. So what is it that you fussing and worrying and dreading that's really worth it? Is it worth it? What is it costing you? Because you're lacking courage. And you will be discouraged. You will never reach any kind of potential in your life because you'll discourage yourself all the time. You don't need an enemy, you are the enemy. Am I correct? If you think you've got enemies, you must just go and look in the mirror. Because your 70,000 thoughts is there telling you it's your friend, but it's not. Do you know that your mind is not your friend? If you tell somebody I need to think about it, they're in trouble. How many things doesn't your mind talk you out of? Where does the whisper come from? Oh, I think I'll go to that talk today on emotional stress. That's something I really need in my life. This room should actually be full of hundreds of people. So what happened to all the others? They talked themselves out of it. I'm not saying any less of how many have come. I'm very grateful and I'm very happy for all of you. But I'm saying that it's only the mind that has determined that they're not here. So how many things don't you discourage yourself every day? Whether you want to take up a sport, whether you want to eat healthily, whether you want to manage your stress better, whether you want to give, something interesting was they did a study to determine about people who have a job that they hate or it's too stressful. Apparently about 90% of people tell you they have a job that they hate. It's a terrible state of affairs, isn't it? Right? So with this work, the whole thing was turned around. Is there any meaning and purpose in the work that you do? And does that meaning and purpose make you feel helpful to yourself or to others? And if it does, no matter how stressful it is, but it's the right job for you. And the stress that you experience will be overridden by the meaning and the purpose that goes with it. So your attitude. So you see, you can be doing something that's really important, that's meaningful to you, but at the same time constantly be complaining about it. So you will discourage yourself. So instead of being more successful, sharing with more people, and allowing yourself the opportunity to express more of you, to serve others, like if I didn't have the biology of courage, I wouldn't be spoken here. Then I wouldn't be sharing this information. I wouldn't have this successful company here and helping people to live pain-free. The collagen powder that's in here reverses arthritis and osteoporosis within 3 to 4 months. People get out of their wheelchairs, they're coming off their walking sticks, they're throwing away their inflammatories and their painkillers, they're sleeping at night, they're cancelling their joint operation. How amazing is it for me to be a part of somebody like that? Because I have meaning and purpose. Now, if you think it's easy, I run this company with my husband, and my son who's a PhD scientist in medicine and chemistry. But the stress that goes into running a company like this is not a joke. Because you're dealing with logistics and manufacture and import and export, and it goes on and on and on. But you say, but it's worth it. We can do it. We'll find the answer. We'll find the solution. It's stunning. We just need to meet the right person or get the right contact, or maybe just pray a little bit. The answer will come. And then the courage is there. Courage is there. You don't give up. Hope. You never give up. Hope. So I believe that I could get better. I was constantly in pain. I said, no, this body is a healing mechanism. I just need to find the answers. And I will get better. And I will get better. And then I'll show other people how to get better. So without the biology of courage, how many things do not happen? So what haven't you done in your life? What are you not doing in your life? What are you not going to do in your life that you should be doing because you don't have the biology of courage? So when you access your heart, you have compassion, you have strength and energy, that's what you need the biology of courage. Next one. Is that the last? No. Right, thank you. So now let's have some interaction. I'd like you to ask me some questions, because I see that there's a nice mixture of everybody here with different backgrounds. So if you'd like me to give me a scenario and ask some questions so that I can help maybe put this knowledge more into practical application. Would you like to do that? Any volunteers? Nadia, you had your turn.
I have thousands of questions, but I don't think it's appropriate to ask them right now.
Oh. Any questions? Or is it meaningful to you? Are you so deep in thought now you can't speak? Are you busy changing your biology to that of courage? Are you thinking about all the things you could have done, should have done, but still can do? Don't live in regret. Look up, look forward. Think what's possible. You see, everything happens in time for a reason. So I'm 60 years old now, doing this now, having done how many things? I'm 20 years in TV and radio, and done a whole lot of, I've been featured in Longevity magazine, the leading stress expert in the country. Now, all of that didn't fall out of the sky. Before I was 30, I traveled to 30 different countries. What an education that was. And I was, in 1959, I grew up in England. I was born in England in 1959. Now, in 1959, hard to find a non-white face. Right? So my father's Indian. So he arrives there in 1957, and it's not really no different to apartheid South Africa. So by the time I go into school, now all of a sudden they can't say Nuri Siddiqui. So they call me Gillian, because they refuse to say Nuri. And then when I got to junior school, I went to the school with my mother, and I said to my teacher in my first year of junior, I said, my name is Nuri, and must call me Nuri now. And from then on I got called Nuri. So I took ownership of me. It was very stressful being called Gillian. I don't like Gillian. They're like telling me I'm to be like them, but I'm not like them, I'm like me. And I grew up with all of that in England because it's very, it's another kind of apartheid in those years. I don't know what it's like now anymore because I'm here from 1992. But then I came to live in South Africa, and for all intents and purposes, suddenly I was coloured. Then you didn't become totally, And then I started working in Islamic radio there, Radio 786 and Voice of the Cape. And everybody just loved me. And I was Nuri. And I was like, I'm home. South Africa's my home, not England. I'm even shy to tell people I'm from there. I'm almost embarrassed. South African, I'm Muslim, I live here. And I'm very attention. So I've been my two daughters up there, 24 and 28 now. They're both married. I've got another life at 60. Empty nest. So good for them. They're studying, they're developing themselves, they're living the way they want to live. Good for them. What are you doing? What do you want? What do you want? You know, the hardest thing to ask a human being is, what do you want? What do you want?
Rugby.
The world is here.
How do you make a decision that you want for yourself, that you know the consequences, how it's going to affect those around you? So you got to make a decision based on, this is what I want. Of course, you're considering your family and the
You see, first of all, you've got to remember that everybody's here to take responsibility. So are they going to react or are they going to respond to you? If they're going to react, it's their responsibility as to whether or not they choose that reaction. So there's a beautiful little verse that's written. It says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. It's very, very deep. You can say it 100 times a day and it goes deeper and deeper. Grant me the ability to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can. and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference. Right? So this lady who's sitting with her Alzheimer's husband has had to grant herself the ability to accept the things she cannot change, to change the things that she can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what has she done? She's changed herself. What does that verse say? It says you can only change you. Now, when you make a stand, it's like if I do counselling maybe with an abused woman, right? Or an abused man. There's plenty of abused men, by the way. Frying pans are very busy. And I don't know if you know any of them. They've got dense limits. So, but what is all that about? Because people are not managing their stress. So I'll say to the lady who's abused, I said, but you see what you're doing is you're choosing to be a victim, or the man, I'm talking about both here, you're choosing to be the victim, not the victor. When are you going to have the courage to stand up for you? Because if you're not feeling powerful within yourself, which comes from your creator, not other things, right? Then you are feeling powerless. And when you are feeling powerless, you are being the victim, and then other people make a victim of you. And then you'll blame them that they're making you a victim when it's actually you that made you the victim. So ask yourself, when you ask a question like that, am I being the victim in my circumstance? Am I letting everybody else's thoughts and ideas overpower my truth and what's real for me? And you know what's the amazing thing? Is like, let's say, for example, that my husband really didn't want me to be here today, and he doesn't like the fact that I'm giving this talk. But at the end of it, there's everybody's so happy and he's doing great things about his wife, and oh, newly this and newly that. And he said, oh, wow, that's amazing. And so many people were touched and moved and inspired that she's my wife. Now he's thinking that I didn't want you to do that. So he was been trying to make me a victim. In the meantime, I chose to be the victor. And then he started to recognize me as a victor, and he stopped treating me like a victim. Does that make sense? As it is, my hubby fully supports me, but there are many situations where women are not supported and men are not supported. So the whole point of this talk was about enabling the release of the oxytocin. And the oxytocin is when you allow yourself to create as well as supported by others, and you offer support to others. So this is how I stand with you today, to have that kind of courage. So what you need to look at in your situation, whereby imagine that it's a kaleidoscope. Now when you do a kaleidoscope, you do 1 millimeter. Is that right? What happens? You want to look at your kaleidoscope? You do 1 millimeter shift and the whole pattern changes. I'm 60 now, maybe you're too young to know what's the kaleidoscope. But the whole pattern changes, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So your biology of courage in your body can change when you do 1 millimeter change. 1 millimeter change. You just shift a little bit from saying no to yes, I can. Well, I haven't got the skills, I'm not sure, but then I'll learn them. No, but I haven't got the confidence. Then I'll practice. I'll fake it till I make it, but I'll do it anyway. Right. So hear yourself, and then when you do that, and you go, what happened? Now you bring about change in them because you started the change. But if somebody doesn't start the change, how will the change happen? They're going to sit around and wait for them. They're in their own victim consciousness, and they want to make you a victim. Ooh. Just take an AK-47. It's a waste of time, isn't it?
How do you, how do you handle when you're in that, or when you feel for the person, even though you want to strengthen your resolve, your courage, and you try to get out of that environment, you try to get moving forward and try to be stronger and
such a lovely question. That means you're a rescuer.
yeah.
Oh, you're self-confessed. Well done.
So I
Rescue somebody, or maybe it's everybody. Rescuing is not support. Rescuing means that you're taking away somebody's responsibility for themselves is one of the most dangerous things you can do for another human being. It's very harmful for them because you don't let them walk the path. The extreme cases is the drug addict, right? I know of a lady, she was very, very high up in TV and communications in Johannesburg, and she had a very brilliant son, he was in computer science, very, very sharp, but he was a drug addict. And she went on a drip, she poured thousands and thousands into it. Nothing would come down. Eventually, the rehab center says, you've got to leave him. He mustn't have food, he mustn't have shelter, he's got to take responsibility. Like 20 years later, she eventually did it. You know, she lives in a house in Joburg, and he lives on the street. And every morning he comes to her gate for plate of food and she gives it to him. Because he refuses to take responsibility. But if she lets him in the house, there will be the drugs, there will be the stealing, there will be the drama. She can't. Now, that's a really extreme case, isn't it? But she did try to rescue him. He just got worse. He just got worse.
Yeah, how do you break that cycle? How do you, it be part of your courage or your dealing with it for those many years?
It's called letting go, and you leave them in the care of the Creator. You let go because you see that actually his responsibility is not yours. And the part of you that wants to rescue means that there's another part of you that needs rescuing. So you get a relief from rescuing somebody because there's a part of you that needs rescuing, so you took a painkiller. So that's what we do, it's kind of an exchange. You'll see it in marriages sometimes.